I came to hip hop like most middle class black boys, black hole in suburbia. Lupe Fiasco, of course. Not most. Fife. The Black Album. One, I was a child. Two, Two Shade of Gray. Two silver spoons stuck in mouth. Now don't get me wrong, times weren't easy, but they were better off than most, so I learned to identify with Coast. Kick push and daydreams and wooden skateboards, brown things like me, fashioned from white privilege. I started off in the Shy, Common, Kanye, but definitely doubled back to Brooklyn, to Refugees, to Jay Dilla, 50 Cent, Tupac post-mortem, my headphones, a cross-country crash course on Hungry, on bass beats for breakfast, steel bars for supper, a space-time explication of disillusion meets disenfranchised crowding the four corners of my room. So yeah, I tried to rap. Came off more masquerade than Master P, or masterpiece. Me in struggle, it seems stuck on two opposing sides of the glass. So I begin to craft fat. Sample my truth with a little more punch. Still hooks from Biggie just to sound a little more black me, trying to sound black enough. A mosaic mixtape of a minstrel show. Tap dancing on the blood blacks bled to break these beats in before I got here. But dear hip hop, if you do indeed hang dead like I've been told, let it not be by tree but by cross, by sidewalk chalk outline or what is or what isn't broke or black or broken enough to believe in you. Let me be Pharisee, playing dice with your flesh-ridden robe as if it's the only life left in you. Hip hop, I've been to your funeral so often I know the eulogy by heart. And for so long believed how I grew up, but got my silence. Hip hop, most days I do not believe you were made for me. For little black boys unbaptized by Glocks. Lyrical prodigies turned prodigal sons who bump you regardless. Who'd rather be in this booth than on our blocks. We'd rather rap the ground and reawaken all we've lost. Like we have the audacity to say we've lost anything at all. Like it doesn't seem so far that I've been so far removed from the music that so far moves me. But dear hip hop, most days you don't move. Sometimes you can be just words, but every day you are word up, word to God, a creation story in free fall and free verse, all too aware of its own gravity. Hip hop, you are more timetable than dividing line, multiplying breath to feed a multitude. A crack on both sides of the sidewalk, a crook in the corner of my mouth, not afraid to speak up and split the sky wide open. I wrote this poem because I wanted to sort of create a sincere opportunity to experience joy, specifically from my own narrative, coming from the middle class, living in PG County, and feeling sort of like I didn't belong to hip hop because of where I grew up or because of how I lived, thinking that sort of hip hop or blackness, as I sort of tie them to each other, thinking that they sort of demand certain sort of socio-economical statuses, sort of certain lifestyles that I didn't belong to it because of that. And so I wanted to sort of step in to this poem and assert that regardless of who I am, regardless of how I live, this culture, this idea, this paradigm that I believe hip hop is, belongs to me. I think my favorite part is the Dear Hip Hop section, because I think in all writing we're really talking to ourselves. And in those periods where I'm like, Dear Hip Hop, I've been to your funeral so often I know the eulogy by heart. And for some reason, how I grew up, I believed how I grew up begot my silence. I think that point is sort of like the thesis, right? Um, I was I want that to sort of be the a main idea that people take away from this poem. That regardless of what people say hip hop is in the state right now. You know, everyone's always like hip hop is dead, hip hop is blah 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 blah. I believe that what Mos Def said. You know, we try to act like hip hop is this big thing in the mountaintops that we have to go get to, or like it comes down and reveals itself to us. But we are hip hop. You know, if you want to know how hip hop's doing, you ask yourself how you doing. You know, and so I think that's my favorite part because of that. You know, it's definitely in line with sort of what he said. If anything, I hope the poem allows people to sort of attack sort of topics that are very popular in sort of the poetry scene right now, in sort of fresh and nuanced ways, right? I think a lot of times when we approach sort of the subjects that are very common to sort of the work we do, we feel like we have to approach it a certain way. I want to give a young poet license to approach it from their perspective, their unique perspective, and not look at it as something that they have to get over, right? My poem's called How I Got Over, based on the roots, how I got over. Like, instead of trying to like step over ourselves, we bring ourselves to the canon, to the literary community, and that is what is fresh, you know? I just want to inspire people to keep their poems fresh, to keep their ideas fresh. And even if it's something that's embarrassing, like being a boy who's in love with hip hop, but also feels like he's too like well off to like hip hop. That's ridiculous, right? I want them people to be like, oh wow, but it is ridiculous. But I'm gonna talk about it because it's true, right?